Hamilton explained that the changes made the car uncontrollable. The balance was gone and every corner was a lottery. From a perfect sprint car, it went on to fight its own car. And as if that weren't enough, the wind made things even more complicated. Ferrari had adjusted the front grip to prevent tire wear, but this left the rear end too unstable. The result? A disastrous qualifying and a race where he was never able to regain his pace. The 2025 Chinese Grand Prix began with a brilliant performance from Lewis Hamilton. The seven-time world champion showed from the outset that he was in excellent shape and that Ferrari, in his first season with the Italian team, had found a competitive setup for its car. During sprint qualifying on Saturday, Hamilton not only dominated the grid but also took pole position, a feat that already indicated a promising weekend for him and for Ferrari. The sprint race, which is short but vital to securing grid positions for the main race, turned into a resounding victory for Hamilton. This triumph not only cemented the driver's confidence but also raised the expectations of the fans, who hoped to see Ferrari return to the fight for victories. For many, it seemed like the first indication that the Hamilton-Ferrari combination had a bright future, with the British driver able to adapt his style and experience to the demands of a team that hadn't been a champion for years. With the sprint victory under their belt, the Ferrari team felt optimistic and confident. However, the outlook would change dramatically in the following hours. The team decided to make some changes to the SF-25 setup, seeking to fine-tune certain details that had been identified during the sprint race. The engineers in Hamilton felt that some aspects of the car needed adjustments to further optimize performance in qualifying and, above all, in the main race, which offers a greater number of points. The problem was that these small tweaks, which always seem harmless, ended up being one of the most costly decisions of the weekend. By the time Grand Prix qualifying came around, Hamilton's car's performance had changed dramatically. What had once been a well-balanced car, allowing him to dominate the sprint race, had become difficult to handle and, above all, unpredictable. Hamilton later mentioned that the adjustments made to the car had taken him to a knife's edge, reflecting how dangerous it was to continue pushing the car under those conditions. Instead of finding a more competitive car, Hamilton found himself with a completely different SF-25, one that was harder to control and lacked the balance he had enjoyed in the sprint. The loss of pace was evident throughout qualifying. Hamilton struggled with the car's stability at every turn, especially in the more technical sections of the Shanghai circuit, known for its mix of slow and fast corners. The British driver found himself unable to find the confidence to attack the corners with his characteristic aggressiveness. Every turn seemed uncertain, lacking the feeling of complete control he had felt during the sprint. The situation was further exacerbated by the changing track conditions, particularly the wind. In a conversation with the engineers, Hamilton expressed his frustration at how the car became quite twitchy due to the gusts of wind that affected its stability. Although Ferrari had attempted to tune the car to have more grip on the front wheels to protect the tires from graining, the compromise resulted in a car with a much more unstable rear end. Instead of a car that behaved predictably in all sections of the circuit, Hamilton had to deal with a Ferrari that reacted erratically and was difficult to handle, something that evidently affected his confidence in the car. This change in performance, from a fast and balanced car in the sprint to an unpredictable and tricky one in qualifying, was the first hint of what was to come for the rest of the weekend. Hamilton's disappointment was palpable, and the expectations that had grown with his sprint win quickly began to crumble. However, the setup issues were just the beginning of a series of setbacks that culminated in Hamilton's disqualification, marking a weekend to forget. After the impressive win in the sprint race, the drastic change in the performance of Ferrari's SF-25 left Hamilton struggling to find the pace needed to compete at the highest level during qualifying and the main race. The main reason behind this loss of performance lay in the adjustments made to the car's setup, which affected the car's stability and balance, key elements in a driver's performance in Formula One. One of the most significant issues Hamilton faced was the lack of consistency in the car's balance. During the sprint, Ferrari had achieved a car that behaved very balanced, allowing Hamilton to attack corners with confidence. However, after the adjustments made between the sprint race and qualifying, the car became erratic, going from controlled to unpredictable. Hamilton explained that the car no longer felt as reliable from corner to corner, making it difficult to maintain a consistent pace. In his own description of the problem, he mentioned that he was looking for a car that offered a similar balance across all sections of the circuit, something he couldn't find after the setup changes. The car's lack of predictable behavior was largely due to alterations to the car's weight distribution and aerodynamics, two crucial factors in Formula One. The modifications made by the Ferrari team, although intended to improve performance, had the opposite effect. The SF-25, which had shown excellent traction and stability in the sprint, became extremely difficult to handle in qualifying. The car seemed to have a jittery feel, particularly in the more technical sections of the circuit, where Hamilton needed to rely completely on the car's response. Added to this was the impact of the wind, which, as Hamilton explained, further exacerbated the car's stability issues. Although the weather conditions changed compared to the sprint day, the gusty winds that occurred during qualifying played a significant role. These winds caused the car to react even more unpredictably, exacerbating the instability already created by the setup adjustments. In particular, Ferrari had decided to modify the grip of the front tires to prevent graining, irregular tire wear, but this decision compromised the stability of the rear axle. This caused the SF-25 to behave very differently than expected, becoming much more difficult to control, especially in fast corners and during steering transitions. Furthermore, the Shanghai circuit, which combines a wide variety of slow, medium, and fast corners, proved to be an even greater challenge for a car that was not performing optimally. The lack of confidence in the car translated into slower lap times and an inability to compete with the best drivers, who are able to use their cars more efficiently. What seemed to be a promising weekend for Hamilton and Ferrari, with the sprint victory, turned into a nightmare in qualifying. The combination of failed setups, a lack of car stability, and unfavorable weather conditions prevented Hamilton from keeping pace with his co-drivers in the fight for the top positions. What had been a balanced and competitive car became a difficult machine to control, unable to offer the stability Hamilton needed to confidently attack the corners of the Shanghai circuit. After a difficult qualifying and an unsatisfactory performance in the main race, the bad news for Lewis Hamilton and Ferrari didn't end there. Following the close of the race, during routine scrutineering on all drivers' cars, both Hamilton and his teammate Charles Leclerc were disqualified from the 2025 Chinese Grand Prix due to technical irregularities with their cars. Hamilton's car was excluded from qualifying due to excessive wear on the skid plank, a part of the car designed to measure the wear of the underbody of the car during the race. This part is crucial because it helps ensure that the cars are not set up too low, which could create an illegal aerodynamic advantage. The excessive wear on the skid plank on Hamilton's car indicated that the car had touched the ground more aggressively than permitted, leading to disqualification. These types of incidents are not common, but they are not unprecedented in Formula One, and the irony is that this issue had already cost Hamilton second place at the 2023 United States Grand Prix when he was racing for Mercedes. The excessive wear on the skid plank was a clear indication that Ferrari had not found the right balance in the car's setup for the race. The car was likely too low in some parts of the circuit, causing it to wear faster than permitted. This detail not only affected post-race scrutineering but also had an immediate impact on the overall performance of the Ferrari team, which lost 18 vital points in the constructors' standings due to the disqualification of its two drivers. The disqualification had a devastating effect on Ferrari's aspirations in the Constructors' Championship. Before scrutineering, Hamilton and Leclerc had managed to finish in positions that would have allowed them to score important points for the team. Hamilton, who had crossed the finish line in 6th place, and Leclerc, who had finished in 5th, had accumulated points that could have been crucial in a championship as competitive as the current one. With both drivers' points cancelled, Ferrari lost 18 points in total, a significant blow in its fight for the Constructors' title. This loss of points in a season where the gaps between teams are minimal could prove decisive in the closing stages of the championship. Beyond the disqualification, the consequences for Ferrari were not limited to the lost points alone. This incident exposed weaknesses in the team's technical management and raised further questions about the reliability of the SF-25, the car Hamilton and Leclerc were racing. The disqualification also underscored the challenge teams face when working with new setups and configurations during a race weekend, as what initially appeared to be an optimal solution ended up severely hampering performance. For Hamilton, the disqualification represented a frustrating repeat of a situation he had already experienced the previous year. Although skid plank wear is a technical issue that can occur due to a variety of factors, the recurrence of this incident at the China race underscores the importance of precision in car setups, something the British driver had already experienced with Mercedes in 2023. These types of errors may seem small, but in Formula One, where every detail counts, they can have monumental consequences for the championship. On the other hand, this episode also affected morale within the Ferrari team. After such a resounding victory in the sprint race and with high expectations for qualifying and the main race, the disqualification was a significant blow to the team. Team members, who had felt confident after the excellent sprint performance, had to deal with the disappointment of seeing their efforts undone by a technical issue they could have avoided. However, it also taught a valuable lesson: the importance of ensuring every aspect of the car, including the technical and regulatory aspects, is perfectly tuned to avoid setbacks. This incident not only damaged Ferrari's immediate prospects but also altered the overall drivers' and constructors' standings. With points removed from Hamilton and Leclerc, other teams such as Haas, Mercedes, and Williams saw an opportunity to climb the championship ladder, reflecting how a disqualification can have a ripple effect on the standings. In terms of drivers, Mercedes' Kimi Antonelli moved up to 6th, while Williams' Alex Albon moved up to 7th, further strengthening the competitiveness between the teams fighting for 3rd place in the Constructors' Championship. In short, the disqualification not only represented a huge frustration for Hamilton and Ferrari, but also had long-term implications for their fight for the Constructors' and Drivers' Championships. Although Ferrari still has the potential to recover in the 2025 season, this incident made it clear that the margin for error in Formula One is extremely small, and any technical slip-up can be very costly. The 2025 Chinese Grand Prix was a stark reminder of how unpredictable and demanding Formula One can be. What began as a promising weekend for Lewis Hamilton and Ferrari, with a dominant sprint race victory, ended in a technical disaster and a disqualification that shattered all expectations. Problems with the car's setup, exacerbated by changing weather conditions and a series of adjustment errors, demonstrated that even the most experienced drivers like Hamilton can be overwhelmed when the technical details don't align. Despite the setbacks, the sprint victory made it clear that Hamilton and Ferrari have the potential to fight for podiums and wins when the conditions are right. This result could be a turning point for the team, as they now have concrete data on what works and what doesn't with their new driver. The key for Ferrari will be to learn from these mistakes and ensure they aren't repeated in future races. Hamilton, for his part, has once again demonstrated his adaptability and determination to overcome obstacles, something that could work in his favor as the season progresses. The disqualification was a severe blow not only for Hamilton but for the entire Ferrari team, which lost crucial points in the fight for the Constructors' Championship. The 2025 season remains unpredictable, and although Ferrari and Hamilton have suffered a significant setback, the chances of recovery remain real, as long as they can find the consistency they so desperately need. This weekend in China not only taught Ferrari and Hamilton valuable lessons, but also reminded all Formula One fans how thin the line is between success and failure in this sport. Setup adjustments, driver adaptation to a new team, and unpredictable track conditions can determine the fate of a race weekend. If you enjoyed this analysis and want to learn more about how Ferrari and Hamilton can make up for lost ground, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. In our next video, we'll explore how other teams like McLaren and Red Bull are handling the pressure and competition this season. Don't miss it.